everybody. Welcome to the HVL Community Podcast. Today, we're talking about the awakening, what we should have known before it would help so much, and other details, other stories about how did we go through it. So let's get started. Monica, how
Yes.
have you been?
I've been good. Just really excited to get this podcast going, to be honest. I've been thinking about it probably since we posted that trailer. So, and before.
Yes.
So I'm really eager to get started and really just share our stories because I think that they will benefit so many people. And that's really why we're doing it, right? So I'm excited for this week's topic, which as you mentioned is spiritual awakening. And I think I want to get into how, what our experiences were like and what that meant for us. And then really just share what, like you said, what we wish we would have known then that we know now that would have helped us in our journey, right? And we're still going through the journey. And I mean, I speak for myself, but it's not something that you're awakened and that's that. No, it's a whole journey of learning, of experiencing, and of incorporating everything that you're learning and integrating that into your life. So I don't think it ever ends.
It doesn't. I don't think it is. It's a whole new process because when you're thinking that you're almost there and at the final, stretch, then you awaken again. So we're going to talk about also that there isn't just only one awakening. It's a different levels of awakening throughout your spiritual path, which is really, really, it's a very strong experience. But then again, it's like, wow, never end. And this process starts all over again, which is like something really emotional. And you actually feel how you're growing in yourself,
100%. With every single step that you take, you incorporate growth into your being as a person, as a soul. And others notice it too. Sorry, go ahead.
So I want you to tell us a little bit about your awakening or what you think was your awakening, because I know your story and it's like from childhood. So let's hear a little bit about your awakening and then tell us what would have been like really good for you to like know beforehand.
So like you said, my story starts when I was a child, and I won't go into too much detail because we don't want to have 3 hours of chats over here. But essentially, I was a very intuitive child. I was very psychic. I didn't really know that, this was something that people didn't experience on a day-to-day normal basis. I thought everybody was like this. And so I didn't see anything special about it, so to speak. And, I talked to trees, and I would be able to have like precognition about events that would happen. I would get these random messages that I didn't really know where they were coming from, but I never really questioned where they were coming from. It was almost like, I know this, and I know this to be true, and there's no need to question it. And so there were several occasions in my childhood when I would just say things to my parents that, this is going to happen, or this is how this is going to turn out, or make sure you go play this lottery numbers, and things that actually turn out that way. And like I said, I didn't think anything was special about it. I thought everybody kind of carried themselves through life that way. But it turned out that it wasn't like that. And things that I kind of suffered through as a child, because I was so intuitive and so psychic, and I didn't know how to deal with it. I didn't know how to, I guess, protect my energy from things that I didn't necessarily want in my field or in my energy. I had a lot of entities around me that bothered me. And they would mainly come out at nighttime. And I guess it's because I was, alone and just my shield was kind of down. Not that I had particularly any shield, but they would just, when I was in bed, they would just, I would hear breathing. I would feel breathing down my neck. I would hear noises. I would hear talking. I would hear things that I wasn't comfortable with. And the only way that I would be able to kind of get rid of that is through prayer. And let's step back a little bit. I was raised in a very Catholic environment. And so that was kind of my go to when I was scared and when I was, not necessarily understanding what was happening. It's a whole different story of things because my nun school upbringing kind of ruined religion for me afterwards. Um, but by praying, I would be able to kind of shield myself that way and kind of make these entities go away. But, it wasn't always the case that I knew how to deal with that. And I also had very vivid dreams and I had very lucid dreams. And I did this as a child without even knowing, again, what I was doing. So this is kind of when the awakening, and I wouldn't necessarily say awakening because I was already awake, I guess, at that point, started happening. But then as I grew older and my reality started shifting more into a 3D life, when you're a teenager and you're concerned about, what you're going to wear to school or what, the next soap opera is on, like just more
Yeah.
concerned about the day-to-day things. I kind of shut those things down and they didn't really come back into my reality or into my being until later on in life when I started noticing some of the things that I did as a child again. And
Yeah.
this time we kind of like different eyes and started paying attention a little bit more and being curious about it and trying to find out what different signs meant and studying philosophy, studying metaphysics. So I had different type of take on everything that was happening to me, but all the gifts were kind of becoming, coming back online. And
Hmm.
so through the study of that and through, just being curious about it, I started to, I guess, cultivate that a lot more again. And that's when the, I guess, awakening process started. But that's just a short intro into how it started. But I'd love to hear what you went through.
Yeah, but before I have a questions.
Yeah.
Did you ever think that when all these spirits were like bugging you, you would have wished somebody to tell you that you had, domain over your space and that you could just like kick them out and say, hey, don't come in my
I,
field.
100%. And like that's one of the things that I want to tell people. Like you have sovereignty over what is in your field, over what your energy holds, right? It's you're the
Yes.
consciousness that's having this experience. And you have the sovereignty to tell anything to get the hell out. And so
Exactly.
I really did wish that I do wish that I would have known that when I was growing up. And that's something that I'm actually trying to convey to my child now. I mean, I have two children, but one is too young to even understand what I'm saying. So I'm trying to convey that, you have this sovereignty, you have this power to really understand what's coming in and be the one that says yes or no to that entity, that energy, that feeling, whatever it is that you're getting, you have sovereignty over that. And it's super important
Exactly.
to internalize that and know that so that you can exercise that sovereignty. Yeah.
Yes. That is one of the things that many people suffer from, not knowing that we are capable of stopping everything that doesn't, that is bad, that is negative, or, that other people just bring upon us without even knowing. Um, well, a little bit about my awakening. Let's say I know I had different episodes when I was a child. I would see things, but I didn't really pay attention to them because every time I went out to tell my grandma, like your family, was a very religious person. So I was raised with my grandma for like about the first years of my life. So I just remember from that stage on. So my grandma was really, really like every Sunday in the morning at 6 a.m. she would get up to go to church, the first mass in the whole day, right? And it was like she would get up, she would make us go, either or we would get to stay, but then we had to go like in the afternoon. So
Right.
we were raised that way too. But when I would tell my cousins and everybody, like, oh, I saw this, they would be like, oh my God, you're crazy, you know? So then I was like, okay, I'm not seeing anything anymore, and I'm not saying anything anymore because they don't know how to deal with it. So I'm just gonna shut up, and I don't want to see anything. I will tell myself, don't look at that. I know there's something there, but just don't look at it. There's nothing there. It's just your imagination. It's just the hat or the hanger or the whatever. You find an explanation for it. So as years pass by, let's see, maybe the first thing I could remember that I noticed was when I was already in high school. And like you said, in my life was like, oh my God, I have to wear something cool. Even though I had uniforms, we had uniforms for high school because it was like
Yeah.
the first high school that had uniforms. So I was like, okay, what am I gonna wear? Well, the skirt, the pants, or whatever. So I was really into what you just expressed, that we were so into the 3D lives. So it was fine, But then one day, when I was in, what was it? I think it was the last year of high school. And you know how always the last year of high school, everybody goes party. They
Mm-hmm.
don't want to go to school anymore. The classes, they cut class, they go somewhere else. So it
Yeah.
was like that thing. And I was invited to like going somewhere with like my my friends. They were like, you know what, we're gonna cut school and we're just gonna go out and to somebody's house and have fun. And I was like, okay. But then as the day went on, so they told me this in the morning, and then as the day went on, I started feeling like a gut feeling.
Mm-hmm.
That gut feeling that tells you no, don't
No.
do it.
Yeah. Don't go.
Not go.
Yeah.
So then I was like, oh my God, I had, I was a good girl. I never cut school. It was something that I couldn't do. It's like I have some kind of thing that I can't be late. It's like I
Yeah.
have to be early 10 minutes or more, or maybe an hour, and I'll just sit there until it's my turn. It's
Yeah.
like I'm those type of people that follow the rules, and didn't do much of anything. So anyways, by the middle of the day, I was like, oh my God, I know something's gonna happen and it's not gonna be pretty, and I just don't want to go. So what did I do? I went to my best friend and I told her, hey, my best friend's name was Esperanza, and we called her SB. And I was like, hey, SB, you know what, I really don't want you to go to this thing. I am definitely not going. Please don't go. She said, okay, I won't go, just to shut me up, like, just shut up.
Fine.
I'm not going.
Yeah.
I'm coming to school. So I was like, so I'll see you tomorrow at school. Please don't go. Something's going to happen. I don't know how to tell you. I don't know how to explain it, but I know I have this gut feeling that something's going to happen. And she was like, um, okay, I'm not going to go. So the next day comes and she doesn't show up, right?
She went. Yeah.
She went.
I had a feeling you were going to go there. Yeah.
She went, and I was like at school by myself, and like there was only like 4 or 5 kids in my class because everybody else had gone to that
Oh
party,
God.
that cut class thing. And the next thing you know, by the time that we were like in recess, which was like noon, um somebody just comes up and says, oh my God, I just got a call from all them guys that went to the party. And I was like, what happened? And they're like, well, they were making so much noise, they had beer, they had so many illegal things for kids. And the neighbors called the cops, so
Oh
everybody
no.
got arrested in that party.
Oh no.
Everybody got arrested. They were locked up for like the day until like the school was over. So they didn't really have a good time. And one
Yeah.
of the guys said, oh my God, you should have seen SB. She was crying her eyes out
I
saying,
should have
Alex
listened.
told me. Alex told me I shouldn't have come.
Yeah.
Why didn't I listen to her? What am I gonna tell my
That
parents?
gut feeling. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was so used to like well, at that point, I was so used to like listening to my gut feeling because I had an incident before that when I
Okay.
was like in freshman year
Yeah.
that I did not listen to my gut. And guess what
Okay.
happened?
You should have listened to your gut.
Yes. My mom wanted to send me on vacation to Mexico. I was in California at that time. I was living in California. And my mom was like, "You guys are gonna go on vacation this summer. Go, visit your dad, and like my mom had divorced from my dad from like always, so he wasn't really in her life. But she wanted us to go see her grandma and her cousins and everything. And that time, I did not want to go, and I had that gut feeling. I was like, you know what? I just don't feel like I want to go.
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, "No, but your brother wants to go. And if you don't go, he doesn't go." It was that pressure that
Right.
parents
Yeah.
put on the
Yeah.
kids to do things. So then I was like, okay. So I didn't listen to my gut.
And you
That
went.
vacation,
Yeah.
I went and I was diagnosed with cancer in my throat.
Oh my
In
God.
my what was it? My thyroid gland.
Thyroid.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was diagnosed with that, and they said it was all emotions. I had
Mm.
in those 3 months that I was in Mexico at that time, I
Wow.
wasn't supposed to be there because I went through so much trauma
Oh,
that I ended up having like a blockage, and it just like became like out of nowhere.
okay.
Just one day, my neck was swollen. Okay,
Oh
I
my
had
God.
nothing one day before, and the next day, my neck was swollen. I had this thyroid problem, so I got checked. The good thing was that is that all my family here in Mexico, they're either doctors, uh, anything to do with like medicine, like.
Right.
So my dad's a doctor. He passed away last year, but he was a doctor. My aunt, she's like one of those biochemist kind of thing where she draws the blood out and checks it. So
Yeah.
she kind of like saw me and was like, "Oh my God, what is wrong with your neck?" And I was like, "Well, I don't know. It's just swollen." And she was like, "Okay, tomorrow we're going to the hospital where I work, and I'm gonna tell my friends to check you out and this and this and that because that's not right." She
Right.
went
Yeah.
worried on me,
Yeah. Of
you
course.
know.
As you
So
would.
within a week, I had the surgery where they took out my thyroid, and they took half of it first, and they went to test it, and then they came back positive with cancer, so they had to
Cancers.
go
Yeah.
back in there and take the whole thing. So that was like one big thing that I was like, "Oh my God, if I wouldn't have gotten, I probably wouldn't have had cancer." You know what I
I was
mean?
gonna
Because
ask you
of all
that. So,
the
like,
pressure,
yeah, do you attribute
emotional pressure.
the blockage to just all those emotions that kind of came on to you in during your
Hmm.
time in Mexico? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
and it was
so
like
so onset, right? So sudden too. Must have been a
yeah,
lot.
because like I didn't speak my truth. I didn't
Mm.
say anything. So that's why it was mostly I
Okay.
now look back and say, okay, well, maybe
Get it.
because you know I I was so pushed into believing, how different it is from living in California or the US and living in Mexico. Mexico is more like an old way of living.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
their traditions and they're really, really strong about them. So there comes this girl that her life was in the US and that was like really rebel with the family, and I didn't care about anything. So I just went out. You know, I had my first boyfriend at that time. So my grandparents were like, "Oh my God, how can you have a boyfriend? You're so young." And I was judged and I was put down and I was, in this whole emotional roller coaster that happened to me. And when that happened to me, I was like, I'm never gonna like deny my gut anymore. Like
Yeah.
what my gut says, that's what it is. I don't care
Yeah.
who I have to, shut down or who do I have to tell no to. But that's it because
Good.
my life changed.
Yeah.
It
As it
changed
would.
a lot.
I mean,
And it still
sometimes we
does.
have.
I mean,
Yeah.
I still have to take medication for like the rest
Of
of my life
course.
because of this.
With
I
thyroid
mean,
issues.
I'm
Yeah.
cancer free, but it's
Mm.
like still I don't have a gland. So
Yeah.
I have to take, medication. So
Yeah.
it was,
Yeah.
for me, it would have been like really, really different. And somebody would have believed in me and would have said, hey, those gut feelings are really, really, they're really telling
Yeah.
you the truth,
Listen to them. Yeah.
listen to them,
100%.
you
Yeah.
know? And I guess that was like part of my awakening. After that, I had ins and outs. Like I kept shutting it down and then coming back
Hmm.
to it,
Hmm.
shutting it down, coming back to it till I came to a point to say, you know what, okay, this is what I'm supposed to be doing, and that's what I'm gonna do, you know?
Yeah. You fully embraced it.
So
Hmm.
yeah. So
I
I
mean, it's
have
all
so
about
many
that.
other stories,
Yeah.
but we don't want to get into
Who
that
doesn't?
right now.
No, that's a good point. I mean, you go through these like ups and downs in terms of your awakening too, right? Like sometimes you're really into it and you really want to find everything out about your gifts and you really want to find out everything that you can do, everything that it's out there for you. And then sometimes you kind of have to retreat and pay attention to your physical life a little bit as well. And it's all
Exactly.
a balance, right? Like it's all
It's
a balance.
exactly. It's all into the balance. You
Yeah.
have to balance that spiritual life with your 3D life, because if you give more to one, then you're off balance and your life doesn't go the same. Like
Exactly. Exactly.
literally, you become a fanatic of spiritual work and you forget about your family and
You're all up
you know,
here,
yeah,
right?
you're
That's what
all
I
up
say.
in
In the
ether, like they
ground.
say. You need to ground, and you need to
Hmm.
um think about your regular life. Like, you have kids, you have to take them to school, you have bills to pay. Sometimes they say, well, I have a job. Luckily, I don't have a job anymore. I've worked all my life except for like the last 5 years, 4 years since the last baby came. And
Hmm.
that's because my husband doesn't want me to work anymore, because he wants me to have the attention for my kids the whole day. So it's like, okay, I'm not going to work. But, it's for other people that do work. It's like, dude, I mean, there's nothing wrong with your work. You just have to find a work that you feel good in it. I mean,
Exactly.
even though you have your spiritual work, you
Hmm.
could get your normal work and have a part-time or whatever it is that you like to do, and do it.
Yeah, a lot of
It
people
doesn't have to
forget
be
that
hard.
when we're starting with the spiritual awakening, when you started really to uncover your spirituality, a lot of people forget that we're actually human beings. Like we are, divine spirits, yes, but in a physical body. And the reason we're in a physical body is to experience this physicality, right? To experience this 3D life and to learn from it, whatever lessons that we came here to learn in our physical world. And that doesn't mean that you forget about your spirituality by any means, but that you integrate those lessons that are coming to you from the spiritual realm, from your inner being into your physical life. And you live your life, your 3D life, almost like guided by that spirituality, if that makes sense to you. Like you say, it doesn't mean that you have to get rid of your job just because you're now are a spiritual being, or that you've encountered spirituality in your life. That's fantastic, but you're still a physical being who has to pay bills or who has to take care of your kids. And that's important too, because that's what you're here. I mean, you're not here to pay bills by any means, but you're here to live this physical
Exactly.
life, right? You're here to
And learn
experience
from it.
exactly. So it's really important to learn how to integrate the spiritual lessons into your day-to-day life, which is the whole reason we're doing this podcast.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And just remember that, even when you're spiritual and you see things happen to you on your day in day life, that sometimes you think, oh my God, this could have gone better, or I shouldn't have gone there, or this experience sucked. And it's like, or I got the messed up parents I could ever get. And you feel bad about that. But then you have to remember that all of those things play an important part on who you become, on
Exactly.
how you're going to, continue your life as
Mhm.
a 3D person and as a spiritual person, because that's where you're going to find compassion for others. You're going to be more empathic. You're going to be more into like the side where oh my God, like me, if I wouldn't have had that cancer experience, maybe I wouldn't think the same way,
Right.
because I am very aware of illnesses, and I am very aware of the whole situation, the pandemic and everything. But I see it more as a spiritual walk that
Mhm.
says, hey, you learned so much from this. You
Yeah.
became a stronger person for this, you know? And so we have to learn to see things, accept them, and release them.
Yeah.
Most
Yeah.
of us don't accept them and don't release them, and we're stuck in there.
We internalize them, right? And then they just kind of take that
Exactly.
energetic space that needs to be cleared.
Exactly.
Yeah, 100%. Which is the subject of another one of these podcasts, probably.
Exactly. Probably we'll keep talking about that later on.
Yeah. So good points, but let's recap a little bit in terms of the things that we wish we would have known. So one, protect yourself, right? Like one is
Yes.
to understand that you're sovereign in your energy and that you can tell anything
Yes.
that's coming. You have sovereignty of whatever is occupying your field. And you can say, stay, you can welcome things, you can say, no, thank you. I don't entertain
Exactly.
this. One is another thing.
Yes.
Two, listen to your gut, right? Listen to what that gut is saying to you, because chances are it's saying that for a reason, and it's a good reason. And I think it takes a little bit of practice too, right? It's not like people are
Yes, it
suddenly just
does.
going to listen to their gut and be like, oh, this is what I'm getting.
No.
It's just almost like a trial and run. Like,
Yeah.
it's just like, let's see, I'm getting this feeling and I'm going to pay attention to it and lean into it and see what happens. And for me, at least, it started small. Like, I should take this bus, or I should take that highway, or I should, like, little things that just kind of like pop into my awareness and say I should do this instead of this. And just starting to listen to the little voice inside you that says, listen to me, little by little. I think that's a good
Yes.
cultivation of that gut feeling. Yeah.
Exactly. And it's something that you will know the difference, because
Hmm.
it has such a strong feeling, and it's that kind of feeling that when you feel really really like empty, and like really, like there's a space there, a void there, and it's very very pronounced. That's how I feel it.
Hmm.
And it's
Hmm.
like, if I would have known what that meant for me, I would have probably listened to it the whole time. I mean, but like you said, it's a trial and error. Sometimes we
Hmm.
just doubt ourselves. And
Yeah.
that we're human. So we
Yes.
doubt ourselves, and we have an ego. So that ego is sometimes like, oh no, you can't, no, that's not,
Get out of the
that's not,
way.
yeah,
Yeah.
no, that you're taking it to out there or whatever. It gives you some freak freaking messed up ideas about what you should be feeling. So at
Yeah.
the end, you kind of like, you know, manipulate yourself to thinking that that's that's not a true thing, that your
Hmm.
feelings are not right, that that what's the outside is correct and you're wrong, you know but
Yeah.
then you learn from that, and sometimes you see things for the bigger picture. I mean, I wouldn't if that wouldn't have happened to me so strong, and it would have affected my life so much,
Hmm.
like that gave me the whole reason to believing on myself, gave me the
And
reason to like believe in my gut. And when I say, I have to do this today, or then I'm like, no, I just don't feel like it, I want to do it tomorrow, and then my gut's like, do it today. So then I'm like, okay, let's do it today.
let's do it.
Okay, so
Yeah.
it's you just have to learn little by
Yeah.
little. You
Hmm.
learn different ways that
Absolutely.
your energy speaks to you through your body, through your
Hmm.
feelings, through your
That's it.
thoughts.
It's the
Yeah,
vibes, right? And then, like you said, it
it's the
has a
vibes.
different heft to it when it's really coming from a place of intuition, from a gut place, right? Like, it has some more,
Exactly.
at least in my opinion, it has more heaviness, I guess, to it.
Yes.
And it's really strong, being like, pull in one side, be like, no, don't do this, or yes, do this, or do that other thing. And again, it's just a matter of like paying attention and really learning to listen to that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and learning how you vibrate. I mean,
Hmm.
people, most of the people, when you start this journey or this path, and you're kind of clueless on what to do, on how to go about it, you know, my best advice is just sit on your space,
Mm-hmm.
feel your surrounding in your body. I mean, just that's what meditation is all about.
Meditation, yeah,
Just
100%.
sitting there with your mind in blank and just feeling everything that's around you,
Yeah.
the energy that it brings. You sit in your spot.
What your energy feels like. Yeah.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
then as you know what your energy feels like, when there's a shift, you will
You'll know.
notice. Yeah,
Yeah,
you'll know.
exactly. Exactly. I always say that to empathic people, like how do we deal with the empaths? How do I, navigate my life being absorbing everyone as energy? And I said, first of all, get to know your energy, right? You need to know your
Yeah.
own house. You need to know what you feel like. You need to know what what you have going on first and foremost, so that you're able to tell when something else comes in, when something is foreign, when something doesn't belong to you, and say, yeah, okay, let's see what this is, or say no, thank you, and move on.
Exactly.
So yeah,
Exactly.
100%. Meditation is key to developing any sort of spiritual life. I agree. I agree.
Yes.
And the
So
other thing
meditation.
I would
Go ahead.
say, there's a squirrel out the door. The other thing I would
You know
say,
what? Before we started recording this, I swear to God, there was some um hawks.
oh yeah, yeah,
There were like 4 or 5 over at the next field. I have a field right next to my home where they
nice.
plant things. And I was looking out the window and I was like, what are those big black things? Because they're pretty far away, right? From my
Right.
house, from my view. So I'm like, they don't look like dogs. And then one starts moving, right? And it's like, oh my God, that looks like no, looks like a big bird, like a big bird that's just wobbling around, but it was a huge, like a size of a dog kind of
Oh
thing.
my god.
And I was
Yeah.
like, oh my God, what the hell is that? It's either, and then I saw them flying up in the air, like, and I
Oh,
was
they're
like, oh my God,
majestic.
they're hawks, you know?
Yeah. I
So then I
love
knew
hawks.
that they were hawks, and I'm like, okay, you don't see that every day here. I
Hey.
mean, you don't. So that must mean something, right?
That's
So
another
that's when you
thing. Yeah.
notice. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's when
Pay
you notice
attention to
little
the
things.
signs. Yeah, 100%. I mean, and
Exactly.
hogs, I mean, for me anyways, birds of prey are so spiritual. And every time I encounter them, and it's funny because I don't encounter them very often unless they're bringing me a sign, unless there's something going on, unless there's some sort of shift happening, and that's usually what they mean for me. So, hey, that's awesome.
I'm
I know what
so
squirrels
used
mean.
to, yeah. I don't know what squirrels mean, but we should look it up.
Yeah.
But one of the things I've noticed since I started my spirituality, like I have more visitors as in animal
Hmm.
visitors.
Yeah.
So it's like if you go around like my block or whatever, I'm like the only house that has those blackbirds. How do you call it? There was a movie about a blackbird type. What is it called? It just like blew my mind.
Blackbird type. What?
Yeah, a little small one. Ravens.
Oh, the
Okay.
ravens. Yeah, yeah,
The
yeah.
ravens.
Yeah.
So I'm like the only house that are like like 100 ravens on top of my house.
Wow. Ravens are also very like a
Yeah.
spiritual animal, right? Like a very omen like type
And
animal.
when they want to get my attention, well, I have like metal protections on my windows, so they just like park themselves there. They just hang there and they're looking
Hello.
inside and they're like, where are you? But it's really rare to see them on the sides. They're usually on the top of the house because it's like a big space.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
besides, they get free food. They take all my dog's food, so they're here for a reason to
Yeah.
eat.
This
But
lady has free food all the time.
yeah, and they know the hours too. They're like, "Oh my God, it's almost time for lunch. Let's go."
Smart. Yeah, they're smart. Super smart.
Yeah.
That's
So
awesome.
that's when you start noticing things
Hmm.
on your awakening. You also notice numbers.
Yeah.
You also notice repeating situations, or you get deja vu's a lot.
Yeah, a lot of deja vu, synchronicities, number signs, any sort of
Exactly.
sign. Phenomena also happening to you as you start developing your clairs. Like if you start developing your, your clear vision,
Yeah.
or your clear audience. There's a
There's
lot of things
also one
happening.
other thing. Yeah. There's also one other thing I wanted to mention. There is symptoms. Okay. When you wake up,
Mm.
there is symptoms. You
Oh
get
yeah,
headaches.
yeah. The downloads, eh?
Yeah. Downloads a lot. You get headaches.
Yeah,
You probably get dizzy. Sometimes you're like low on energy. Sometimes you're really high up, you know? It's like a roller coaster of emotions when you're, and then you
yeah.
start feeling everything that's inside you,
Hmm.
and you're like, oh my god, I feel so heavy. Or you start feeling your house, your environment a lot better,
Yeah,
and you're like, oh
everything
my god,
vibrates.
yeah, everything vibrates
Yeah,
towards you, and it's
yeah,
like, oh, like I should move this around or whatever, because
yeah,
now you're kind of like seeing how this energy field of yours is surrounding everybody else, and you start feeling different emotions and
yeah.
different sensations. You get a lot of chills. You get, oh, one thing that just like, blew my mind was that when I started my awakening and my clairs started opening, mostly my ears, like the first time I actually for meditation, and I was like, oh my God, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm just going to sit here and, and see what the hell is going on. So I start praying, right? And I start saying, if there's somebody out there that wants, my attention, that's my guide, or whoever it is that are from my highest good, always highest good people, because
Always, yeah. Hmm.
you could ask for, connection to anybody, but it's like you don't know what you're attracting yet, because
Exactly. Yeah,
you're not a professional, you're just starting, so you
yeah.
make mistakes, so you have to really say out there, for my
Set the
greatest good.
intention. Yeah,
Put the
100%.
intention that is somebody
Hmm.
that's going to guide you, that somebody that wants the greatest good for you, not just anybody walking past you, because then
Anybody here?
they'll probably drain your energy, and you will
Yeah,
feel bad, or you'll
that's
have an attachment to you, which we
that's
don't want
important.
that.
Yeah.
So that's very, very important. So I sit there and I'm like, okay, whoever it is, just, you know, I need a sign just to know I'm not crazy. Come on,
Right.
just give me a sign. And then the next thing you know, I felt two people. I mean, I say people. I don't know who they were at that point, but I think they were my higher self and my spiritual guide that came through, and they just like, one put one hand on this side and the other one on this side, and I was sitting on the floor, and when my eyes closed and I felt them, how they hold my shoulders,
Wow.
and I was like,
Yeah.
oh my god, oh my god. And I didn't want to open my eyes, because I was like,
It
oh,
can be
you know
startling at first. Yeah.
yeah, it does. Because I was like, so like, I'm not gonna get afraid. I'm sorry. I'm not gonna be afraid. I'm
Mm.
just not gonna do it. I'll just come to me. I don't care how strong you do it, but
Right.
no, that's not a good idea. Don't try to be strong. Just go
Oh,
go on, little steps, baby
whatever
steps.
really feels comfortable, right? But always know that
Exactly.
you have sovereignty. Like you say, you can tell anything that you're not comfortable with to go
Exactly.
away. And it's all, it'll come to you when it needs to come to you. And that's another thing that I would say, like, don't compare yourselves to others. Like when you're going
Right.
through this by yourself and you seek out others that maybe have been going through this a longer time, or even if they haven't, if they're somehow, I don't know, talking to aliens and you're just starting to meditate, doesn't mean that you're doing anything wrong. It doesn't mean that you're not worthy or that you don't have any gifts or anything of the sort. It just means that whatever's presenting itself to you at that time is what needs to be presented to you at that time, and whatever else needs to
Exactly.
come will come when it needs to come, right? So
Exactly.
that's something that I also
It's
like to
like we're
tell
not
people.
in a race, right? We're
No.
not in a race. Everybody goes on their different,
Mhm.
you know, different timings. Is some are slower because
Yeah.
they have to learn more. Because they have, it's so many different and so many things, or maybe they just need to work on themselves first to get
Everybody's
a
just,
really
yeah.
clean vessel. So it's not that, Monica may have, the best energy ever, and she's up there and she knows everything. She had it since she was little and she knows, like, so she's a pro. Okay, but that doesn't mean that I'm wrong, that I can't get to that point. I'll get there when I have to get there, or maybe I won't.
Exactly.
Maybe I'll go somewhere else, and maybe I'll just start talking to, I don't know, animals, or do
That's
something
it. Like
different than
there's
Monica
so
does,
many
you
different
know?
things to cultivate, and like everybody's on a different journey, right? So that's the
Exactly.
important thing. Like you do
And
you, and that'll be good.
everybody's called to a different thing. Some
Yeah.
of us are healers, some of them are communicators, some of them are channels, some of them are mediums. Hey, I love everything that's spiritual, but I'm more focused in my healing because that's what I
Exactly.
do. That's my
Exactly.
essence,
Yeah.
as in my soul.
Yeah.
So when you find that, whatever fulfills you, then that's where you go. And that, um Monica here, she's like with their crystals, and like, she's really into that, and the healing with crystals. And I don't do that. I don't do
Right.
that much of crystal healing, but
But you're an awesome energy healer. So
yeah, but it's like we have different ways of working, and
yeah,
that's really cool because everybody gets to work on their own pace with their
exactly.
own modalities, and they start recognizing themselves within their inside of your essence of your soul, and
Yeah,
that's what works. That's
exactly.
what works for everybody. So don't be like, oh my god, I'm just quitting because
Yeah.
none of this good shit happens
I
to
can't
me.
see anything or nothing yet. No, it doesn't work that way. It doesn't. And
No,
also
it
don't
doesn't.
close yourself. That's a way of closing yourself off, right? If you're constantly saying to yourself, I'm not doing this right, then like that's where you're attracting in your energy that you're not doing it.
Exactly, that you're
So
blocking yourself
you're
on your own.
blocking. 100%.
Exactly. So we have to be very intentional
Yeah.
on what we manifest when we're on our spiritual path. And, you
Oh
know,
yeah. Intention is
believe me,
everything.
I had that one mistake I did. I knew I shouldn't have said that. And when I said it, it just like, I was like, oh my God, I'm so going to regret this. You know, it's like one day we were talking and I was like, oh my God, I'm in such a special place. I have nothing to worry about. I think I have worked all my shit out because I feel good. You know, my energy is up, going everywhere, and I love it, and this and that. And I was talking to one of my friends, and she's like, really, you feel in a good place? And I said, yeah, I feel in the best place. I don't have to work, in myself. My inner self is already
I'm done.
okay. I'm done. I'm done with it. And
I
then guess
graduated.
what happened?
You had to work on yourself a little more.
A little more. No, a lot more. Like, they just kicked me in the butt and said, here you go. You
You
didn't have
thought
any
you were
work.
what?
Here you go. We handle your work.
You look a little too relaxed there. Here's something
Exactly.
to do.
Yeah, that's right. So they did. They gave me a lot to do. And it was a very, very hard issue for me that I was avoiding. And they were like, well, okay, we were just waiting for you to like
Yeah. To
acknowledge
be
it. But
done with
since
everything
you're
else.
since you're done, let me push it up to you
Yeah.
so you could see it.
Remember this? Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't you love it when that happens?
My
Oh
God, they're
boy.
so in everything.
Hmm.
Oh, and so I was talking about clairs. I just like blew my mind and I went somewhere else. But I'm talking about clairs, and then you start noticing when they come.
Yeah.
Have you noticed that your ears like just like you hear sounds that you
Hmm.
wouldn't hear?
Yeah.
Or that your little drum is like drumming its way and there's nothing to make it drum?
Any
It's like
tones? Yeah. Sometimes your
exactly.
name is called, like I hear my name a lot. I used to hear my name a lot when I started. Now I
Me
can discern.
too.
But your name
It
being
was like,
called,
and
yeah.
usually when you're kind of like asleep and you're almost awakening, like you're in that,
In that state,
transition of
yeah. A
wakening,
hypnagogic
and
state.
it's like, and all of a sudden they call you by your name, Alex, and you're like,
Who said that?
and you're like,
Yeah.
oh, who's here,
But even like fully awake, sometimes I'm just like I consciously remember being like, who said my name? There's no one here. So yeah, no, 100%. That's you start hearing
Yeah.
things like that. You can hear tones. You can hear like sometimes I hear music playing, like specific either like melodies or even just like music that I know, like lyrics that I know, and I'm like, oh, that's a message. Like
Yeah.
somehow like that those lyrics come into my awareness and I start either singing it or it's just kind of starts playing
Yeah.
in my inner ear and I'm like, oh hey, I haven't thought about that song. What's that all about?
Exactly.
Hmm.
Yeah. That happened
Yeah.
to me. And it also happens that when you start vibrating higher and you're around people, the people that are around you start vibrating higher
Oh
as well.
yeah, yeah.
And you start having this connection that is the most amazing connection. And let me tell you why. Since we're talking about songs, one day my husband and I were making breakfast for the kids, and we were all in the kitchen. We were all, sitting, my kids were sitting around, and my mom was there too. And then all of a sudden, I start hearing this song in my head. And I was like, oh my God. And then all of a sudden, I started singing it at the same time that my husband started singing it, the same
Love that.
song.
Yeah.
And then he's like, you read my mind. And I was like, no, I didn't. I started hearing it. Well, I heard it too. You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So we
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
started singing it, and it was such a great connection that we have. And most of the time we have that type of connection that we notice
Mhm,
it a little bit
mhm.
more since I started waking up, and he knows everything about what I do. So he's
Yeah.
really aware of everything, and he's always asking me, hey, and I think he has had his awakening because he used to work on a Reiki class. Like
Oh wow. Okay.
he went through Reiki. I'm not sure how many levels he went through, but he really believed in everything. And
Right.
but then because of the money situation, he kind of shifted into another career path,
Mm.
and he left that aside. But he believes in everything, and he's like, I can't believe we have this awesome connection that we
Yeah.
could basically read our minds. I
Yeah.
mean, we
Oh,
hear the same
telepathy.
things.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I actually
And
had
it
a funny
happens.
story with my husband as well.
Yeah.
There was one point, so my husband's Australian and I remember this was like probably about a year or two ago, I forget. We're sitting down and we're watching TV and Arnold Schwarzenegger comes on and he has an accent, he's kind of foreign and he said something to me, but like what did he say? He said something like, I really identify with him because, he has an accent and he's kind of like a fish out of water sometimes because he doesn't. Anyway, point is, he said something to me about Arnold Schwarzenegger. I'm like, yeah, you've said that before. And he's like, no, I haven't. I just thought about that. I'm like, no, dude, you've literally said the exact same thing to me. I don't know when, but you've said that. And he's like,
Mhm.
no, I haven't. Like, this is the first time I formulate that thought in my head. And I was like, what? I literally just everything you're just saying, I already knew that you were gonna say it because you've already said it. And he's like, like I've never said this before in my life. I was like, huh. And then like doing a little bit more digging, I'm like, this is like telepathic communication because I already knew what he was gonna say because he had thought it. And as he
And you
was
had
saying,
received it.
I had already received it. And I was like, you've already said this. Like, yeah. And do you feel this way because of this? And he's like, what the? No. Like, I've never said
I
this in
thought you was
my
I thought you was gonna say that at the end of the sentence he was gonna say, "I'll be back."
life.
you know?
Copy dog. Put the copy down.
I was like, oh my god,
So
But
funny.
it
But
is
yeah.
so amazing once you are spiritual and you include it into your life, into
Yeah.
your family members. Like,
Yeah.
you know, um, and again, this whole awakening and experiencing the spiritual path, the spiritual beliefs, doesn't generate it from a religion. It does not come from a religion. It's totally different. Okay,
Hmm.
we're talking about spiritual life is the inner you,
Hmm.
not the religion,
I mean,
not
I want
being. I mean,
I want
yeah.
to put a little bit of a pin here. Like it's a caveat, so to speak. It's not coming from a man-made religion. I think that every religion has basic tenets that spirituality also adheres to. Like there's a greater being. We call it source energy. I call it source energy. Other people may call
Me
it
too.
God. Other people may call it the great spirit, whatever you want to call it. We're talking about this, energy or energetic creator that we all identify with. We're just calling it a different name. And so when I say, or when we say it's not religion based, meaning we don't necessarily adhere to everything else that, comes with a religion.
Yeah.
Like you have to go to church or you have to,
You have to do
give
this
money
every
to this.
Sunday.
Yeah. No, like I completely divorced from that, especially given my
Me too.
upbringing. But, there are a lot of religious concepts that really, resonate with me because they talk about the same thing. It's just they name it something differently. Right.
Exactly.
So, yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, but it's and you could believe whatever you like outside of spiritual. It's up to you. I mean, nobody's gonna judge you or anything
Mhm.
for having a spiritual figure in your house or the cross or whatever,
Yeah.
or Virgin Mary or whatever you feel like, praying to.
Yeah.
That has nothing to do with your inner work and your inner self, and discovering who you really are as an essence of your soul. And there is no like difference, or like what I'm trying to say, that it's not going to block you from learning.
Mm-mm.
Believing
Mhm.
whatever everybody else believes does not block you from starting a spiritual path on your own. Okay, you could
Yeah.
still go to church and you could still go every Sunday, or you could still
Yeah.
go and
Yeah.
see your
100%.
pastor. It
Yeah.
doesn't make any difference if you still do that and look for guidance elsewhere. But then you could also have your spiritual opening, your awakening, and your path, and still learn a
It's
lot
all, yeah.
about yourself.
It's all about the energy, right? Like you're raising your vibration so that you can connect to this higher level of, higher frequencies, I guess. And so if going to church makes you happy and it raises your vibration and you're, all around just happier because you're doing this and you can have that sense of community and because you feel like you're really connecting to your creator, to your God, that by all means that's actually going to contribute to you developing as a soul as well because you're raising your vibe, right? And when you start a spiritual
Exactly.
path, it's all about that. It's all about really getting to know yourself and doing the things that will make your energy as high frequency as possible, because that's what we're all here to do at the end
Yes,
of the day. And also
that's
find
right.
a community. If I would say one more thing that I wish I would have known when I started, and I eventually got there, was finding a community that I could rely on, that I could, ask questions to, that I could tell my stories to. And, if you're listening to this, chances are you're in the HVL community. So, yay, you're already there. But if you're listening to this on another platform, join us, join a community that really supports you, because that's going to make a lot of difference than just try to understand everything by yourself. So that's, yeah, if we want to
Exactly. It
conclude with
does.
something, I want to say that.
Yeah, and I just want to say, the same as you, I think that knowing that you're not the only one out there with this type of situations, it's okay.
Mhm.
There is so many other people going through the same thing as we are, as we went through, or we still do.
Yeah.
And it's nice to have that other person to tell you, hey, don't worry, this is part of the
Got you.
process.
Hmm.
I got you. I'll tell you everything I know from my experience so that you could grow too. And that's what is the HBL community. That's what is based on: sharing information, showing other people, and being there for people and holding space for others. That's like my main goal for this community. So join us if you can. If you're hearing it in another platform, you're welcome to join us in Facebook. And we will have so much more information on the next podcast. So,
Hmm.
stay tuned.
Yeah, it's gonna be great. And guys, just to remind you, if you have any questions or anything that you'd like us to talk about, write a comment, drop it here and let us know. And we'll be happy to chat about that.
Okay. Have a good day then.
Bye.
See you next time. Bye.